How's it going, guys? This is Cody, and this is going to be my first video in my new series that I am calling October Horror Fest. And in this series, I'm going to be talking about every movie that I watch during the month of October. Now, as I said in my last video, what I'm going to be doing is, if I watch a certain amount of movies that I've already seen, or a certain amount of films that I've already talked about, then I'll do one video where I talk about maybe 5 or 6 of them, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about them because, as I said, I've already talked about them. But I do want to mention them and talk a little bit about them. But if it's a movie that I haven't seen, I'm going to dedicate a video where I talk about maybe 3 or 4 movies that I haven't seen. And I'm going to talk about them in more detail and just give you guys a better opinion on it because, well, this is the first time that I'm seeing them, so it's the first time I'm talking about these movies. And I don't know how many of these videos I'm going to do a week. Since I'm just starting out, this is just the first video, but I might do it 2 to 3 times a week. It really depends on how many movies that I watch during the week. But yeah, like I said, this is a new series that I'm doing, and I'm really excited to it because, when it comes to these movies, a lot of these, they're traditions, just like around Christmas time, there's a lot of Christmas movies and holiday favorites that people watch around Christmas time. Well, for us horror fans, horror movies are traditions for us around October. There are certain horror films that we watch every year, and I'm going to be watching pretty much every horror film that I watch every year. Plus, I'm going to try to watch a good number of ones that I haven't seen yet. So there's going to be a good variety of films I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just get started. And for this first video, I'm going to be talking about some kind of family-friendly films. Simply because these are films that I grew up watching. And they're films that I watch every year around October, or they have an October or a Halloween feel. Now, these are not, like I said, these are like family-friendly films. Of course, my next video, I'm going to start watching horror movies, but I always enjoy starting off October by watching, some films like this, movies that I watched as a kid that I really do enjoy that brings me back to, to Halloween when I was younger. Now, some of these movies are not necessarily Halloween related. Some of these are films that I can watch any time of the year, but I still wanted to talk about them. I've also got a couple of episodes of a TV show that I used to watch as a kid as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first movie I'm going to talk about is one of my all-time favorite films. I've talked about this movie so many times, and that is Casper. And this is one movie, like I said, I grew up watching. I've always loved this. I actually saw this movie before I saw any of the older, the classic television show. And so this was my introduction to Casper, and I've always enjoyed it. I love the actors in this. Christina Ricci, is great as Kat. And this is simply the story of, Casper. He's in this huge house with his uncles, the ghostly trio, and he's lonely. And then Kat and her father, Bill Pullman, who is like he calls himself like a ghost therapist, basically, and he just moves in there to talk to the ghost at his house because this woman inherited the mansion from her father who passed away, and she believes that there's a treasure in there, and so she thinks that Bill Pullman's character can get the ghost out so that she can get the treasure that's apparently there. Very heartwarming movie. I know that a lot of people have probably seen this before, but yeah, Casper is a really great family film, and I love the music in this. Probably my favorite, on the soundtrack, my favorite track is Casper's Lullaby, which is basically, it's the little piano melody that plays throughout the entire movie. I love that. This movie's got great music, and of course it was produced by Steven Spielberg, executive produced by Steven Spielberg, but yeah, just an amazing film. And I also watched the other 2 Casper movies. Now, when I was a kid, I used to think that these movies were connected, but it never really made any sense to me because whenever they made a Casper movie, it was as if the events of the previous movie never happened. Like, let me give you guys an example. Now, the first one, the other one that I enjoyed, this is considered like a prequel to Casper. This is this movie was supposedly about when he first discovered that he's a ghost, and it's Casper: A Spirited Beginning. Now, this movie has nothing to do with the Casper movie I just talked about, and it has nothing to do with the one I'm going to mention. I've always enjoyed this one as well. I mean, this one, Casper meets this young boy, his father doesn't really spend a lot of time with him, and Casper and his uncles live in this mansion that's about to be torn down by the boy's father, and it's a pretty good movie. One thing that's funny is I've had this movie for years, and I broke it this morning. And I was like, wow, I've had this movie for so many years, and just today I ended up breaking the case. But I always enjoyed that one as well. And then the last one is Casper Meets Wendy. And for anyone who may be wondering, yes, I did name my dog Wendy after Hilary Duff's character in this movie. I've always enjoyed this one as well, but like I said, this movie has nothing to do with the other two Casper films. Because I've always wondered why Casper, he never mentions that he used to have a friend. Like, in this one, he never mentions that he met the other two characters in the other two Casper films. And I always wondered why, as a kid, that he never mentioned it. And it's because they follow different storylines. But this one is probably the cheesiest of the three, but I enjoy it. I also have Casper's Haunted Christmas. But anyway, now the next two movies that I watched, these are two of my all-time favorite films, and that is Gremlins and Gremlins 2. I love Gremlins, one movie that I grew up watching. So many amazing things about it. Of course, it's directed by, the one and only Joe Dante, and executive produced by Steven Spielberg. Just an amazing film. I love the actors in it. Some people would call it a Christmas movie because it takes place on Christmas Eve, but I can watch it any time of the year. And I watched it yesterday, and I really do enjoy it. Gremlins, one of my all-time favorite films. And Gremlins 2 is an underrated sequel. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's really cheesy, and there's a lot of jokes into it. It's more of a comedy compared to the first one, but I've always enjoyed it. I think Gremlins 2 is a very underrated sequel. So yeah, both of these movies are in my top favorite films of all time. And next, we have another adaptation of a classic TV show, and that is the two Addams Family movies. I really enjoyed both of these. In the first one, the Addams Family, Uncle Fester, who's played by Christopher Lloyd, him and Gomez have this argument, and Christopher Lloyd goes away, or Uncle Fester goes away to the Bermuda Triangle, and the movie is then trying to contact them, and they end up contacting him, but his mother is now trying to get into the Addams Family fortune. It's a great movie. I really think it's one of the best movie adaptations of a TV show. It also has Christina Ricci as Wednesday. Now, the Addams Family Values, I don't like it as much, but I've heard a lot of people say they prefer it over the first one. The second one, Uncle Fester falls in love with a nanny because Gomez and Morticia have a new baby, and so they get a nanny, and the nanny tells them that the kids want to go to camp, even though they don't. And it's this camp called Camp Chippewa, and it's a summer camp, and of course they both hate it. I've read reviews on it, and apparently Addams Family Values got just as many good reviews as the first one, and a lot of people really do enjoy it. I do enjoy it as well, but I think the first one is a much better movie. So yeah, I really enjoy both these movies, and they're really fun to watch. I also love the music as well. I like the new theme that they had for the first film. Both really fun ones. And then we have one movie that some people say it's a Halloween movie, some people say it's a Christmas movie. I consider it a Halloween movie, but I also enjoy watching it around Christmas time. The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton's masterpiece, an amazing movie. This was actually one of the first movies I saw with this type of animation, and I absolutely love this film. So many great characters, great songs. There's really not much about it that you can't say that's already been said. Now the next two things, these are two episodes of a TV show I used to watch as a kid, and I do plan on doing a separate video where I talk about all the videos that I have of this series. But it's two episodes of Goosebumps, and the first one is Stay Out of the Basement, which I really do enjoy, and A Night in Terror Tower. And these are the really old VHS tapes that came out, I think, in the 90s or the early, I can't remember when these came out exactly. But I really enjoy both of these. And Goosebumps was one series that I grew up watching. And I have a good number of the videos that came out, and I do plan on doing a video where I show off the videos that I have. But yeah, Goosebumps, really great show, and I really enjoy Stay Out of the Basement and A Night in Terror Tower. Of course, now that I'm older, I kind of grew out of that phase of watching Goosebumps and stuff like that. But I like to go back and rewatch them and just, have some of those memories come back. And the last one that I got is actually probably the weirdest movie that I've watched, and it's a animated, it's like a CGI animation. It came out in 1999, and it's called Night of the Headless Horseman, and it was inspired by Washington Irving's classic, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And this is a really weird animated short because it's really weird. It's kind of hard to describe who this movie is meant for because it's an animated cartoon. So it's, hang on, let me change. My arm's getting tired. It's really weird because it's an animated cartoon, so you think it would be okay for kids to watch. But there are some scenes where the Headless Horseman actually kills people and there's blood. So you think that it would be made for more adult audiences, but it's too silly for adult audiences because there's some scenes of like, one guy's riding a horse and he gets knocked off by a branch, and there's stuff like that that wouldn't appeal for adults, but there's too much gore in it for it to appeal to kids. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like in between. But Night of the Headless Horseman, like I said, I don't really know anything about it. I just enjoy it, but it's really weird. I do like the music in it, and I do like this type of animation. It's like the, I would refer to it as video game animation almost, but, of course, back then, that is what a lot of video games looked like. But now, of course, animation has gotten better now in video games. But yeah, guys, that was it for my first video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm not trying to talk a whole lot about each film because these are movies I've already talked about, or they're films that I've, a lot of other people have already seen, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about them. I'm going to spend more time talking about films that I haven't seen. But like I said, I always enjoy starting off October by watching films like this that are, some of them are like family friendly, and some of them are just made for younger audiences, but they're also films that everyone can enjoy. Like the Addams Family movies, they're PG-13, and, they're ones that I think both younger kids and adults can enjoy, or The Nightmare Before Christmas. But then you have stuff like Goosebumps, which is mostly meant for younger kids. So, I like to start off October by watching stuff like this. But anyway, guys, like I said, thanks for watching. I will be doing several of these. I don't know how many. I might try to do maybe 2 a week. Try maybe 2 or 3. Like I said, it really depends on which ones I'm going to watch. I do have a couple of other like family-friendly, Halloween-related, well, not Halloween, but horror-related films that I'm going to be watching, and I will talk about a couple of them in my next video, but I'm also going to talk about a lot of actual horror movies in my next video as well. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks to everybody for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think about all the movies I talked about in this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.